Hello, my name is Julianne Catron, and this is my final presentation for EDUC 526 at Azusa Pacific University. The contents of this presentation include an overview of my growth assessment, an overview of my unit plan, and an overview of my action research. First, let's discuss my growth assessment. Section 1. In the introduction, I discuss how digital teaching and learning master's degree fit well with being a special educator, how using technology is one good way to differentiate according to the universal design for learning, and my goals were to be able to use technology efficiently in a way that engaged students and helped them progress. I discussed my personal growth, and I noted that I am self-motivated and I am an auditory learner. I learn fast, but unfortunately I procrastinate. At Azusa Pacific, I realized that I needed to work on my procrastinating because it was affecting my performance both at work and school. I learned that I cannot juggle everything, and sometimes letting go of something in pursuit of something else makes sense. Discussing my professional growth, I stated that my philosophy on education has not really changed much. I have always believed that every child can learn, not in the same way or on the same day, but every child has the possibility and the capability to learn. I did note that my philosophy has expanded to include some other items, which I discuss in my philosophy in my growth assessment. Some responsibilities that I have taken on this year is I had joined the technology team, and I helped write a technology grant for my school, which we were actually awarded. We will become a technology-rich environment this coming school year. Because of this, I will be known as what is called a multiplier. That means that other teachers and administrators from different sites, as well as my own, can come in and watch me teach and see how I'm using technology in my classroom. I am also on the instructional leadership team, and I am the special education lead, which means that I am usually the first person to know about anything important, any different changes going on in our district, and it is my job to educate the rest of the special education team. And I'm also the school site council chairperson. School site council basically handles all of the money and the budget spending. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to make cuts, which I found out this year. The strategies that I have chosen to implement in my classroom, and I implement them daily, are I use songs and videos often for singing and dancing to teach basic concepts. I allow students to use apps, and I use Camtasia whenever I have a substitute. I record myself and my songs and the videos that we normally do so that the substitute can just push play and doesn't have to find everything that we do on a daily basis. As for my technical growth, the two items that I learned the most about and that I had known the least about prior to enrolling in this master's program are iMovie and Camtasia. Both of these items I use in my classroom currently. I use iMovie to share our progress with parents through Class Dojo. Sometimes I will make a little video of students learning and send it to their parents. I've also shared some activities that we've used through ScreenChomp as well. And Camtasia, I discussed how I use that with substitutes. I am also going to be using that in my role as ILT to help train some of the other special educators on some of the new technology that we'll be using. Section 2, going over the history of coursework and my evaluation. In Education 511, I learned about Symbaloo. In Education 512, I learned about WebQuests, and I actually made one. In Education 514, I learned a lot about iMovie. In Education 522, I learned about a lot of different apps, but one that I really loved was ScreenChomp, and I use it in my classroom. In Education 515, I am doing my Genius Hour presentation on Camtasia, which is a program that I recently bought. It cost quite a bit of money, but it is a screencasting program, and I think it is definitely worth it. In Education 526, I learned a lot more about LiveBinder and have perfected working on it and organizing. My evaluation of the impact of digital teaching and learning. I have made upgrades to my classroom in the form of an iPad, which I purchased myself. I allow my students to use my iPhone on guided access, of course. And I also am receiving an awful lot of technology due to the technology grant that I helped write. In addition to that, I allow students to use a multitude of apps, different apps that we can use that will address what it is that we're learning. Specifically, my students with autism a lot of the time have difficulty working in small groups, and sometimes it is just easier on them, easier on me, and more effective if I can just pull up an app that has the same objective and allow the student to work on that independently. My evaluation of the program, I appreciated the fact that some of the assignments could be completed on my cell phone and my iPad. I would have liked to see more special ed specific courses where they discussed technology that is specifically for adapting assignments for special needs students. However, I did learn a lot, but I still need to practice a little bit more with some of the technology that I have learned, as I would not call myself an expert just yet. This brings me to part 2, which is my unit plan. This will be a quick overview of the 8-day unit that I created on weather. So as stated before, it is an 8-day unit. It is adapted for English language learners and special needs students. It includes Common Core state standards, and it addresses all 8 multiple intelligences. Our unit objectives, goals, and learning outcomes. The unit is focused on the weather and the weather cycle. It is technology infused. It is cross-curriculum. We use CDI strategies, and we talk about safety procedures so that students can remain safe. The technology, devices, and materials necessary for this unit requires a laptop, an iPad, computers, and a smartboard. In addition to these 4 items, there are some apps and programs which are secondary. However, they are listed in the unit plan. The Common Core state standards that are addressed are with prompting and support, ask and answer questions about key details in a text. Students can use a combination of drawing and dictating to compose an opinion piece. With guidance and support from adults, recall information from experiences or gather information from provided sources to answer a question, and participate in shared research projects. A day-by-day breakdown. Day 1, students will be introduced to the new vocabulary, and that will be part of the anticipatory set, which introduces the idea of what they will be learning about. On day 2, the teacher will activate prior knowledge through discussion, and students will watch the Magic School Bus video. The Magic School Bus video goes over some weather patterns and how weather is formed. Then the students will answer some simple comprehension questions. Day 3 will begin with a discussion about the video, a vocabulary review, and then students will discuss which type of weather they would like to learn about. Based on their answers, the teacher will generate a graph on the smartboard and will group students according to what their interests are. On day 4, within their small group, students will research, discuss, and create a circle map about their chosen weather pattern. On day 5, students will review the circle map. Then they're going to generate a new thinking map. This new thinking map has the goal of organizing their information. So they can use either a tree map or a flow chart. Now, once they have created their tree map or their flow chart, they can use the Screenshot app to actually create a short movie or discussion where they draw each picture and discuss and talk and record their voices over that. On day 6, this teacher will lead a safety discussion. Students will work on a draft, which is actually a picture of a background for their specific weather pattern. So if it is rain, the students will draw a picture of rain. They may draw puddles on the floor. If it is wind, they may draw trees blowing over. And then they will take that draft and they will approach the smartboard and they will create a large-scale drawing of that, which they can use as a backdrop. Once the backdrop has been completed, the teacher will record a short iMovie of the students behaving safely in that weather. On day 7, the teacher and the teacher's aide will take all of the information that has been created in these groups, including pictures of the circle maps, pictures of the other thinking maps, any videos or activities done using Screenshot, and record them into iMovie. Record them into Camtasia. On day 8, students will view their Camtasia movies. Each group will be able to view each other's Camtasia movies. There will be discussions that follow each viewing, and students will be given exit questions on each video just to make sure that they understood what they viewed. Assessment will be done 2 ways. I created 2 rubrics for this unit plan. One would be for a group grade, and this will be based on the video. And the other one is an individual grade, which will be based on each individual's participation within their small group. Finally, this brings us to my action research project. For my action research project, I chose to do a behavior intervention plan for a student in my classroom. This student is in kindergarten and he is behavior disordered. Some of his behaviors include spitting, kicking, hitting, and scratching. The problem statement. When Kamal engages in problem behavior, he is distracted from learning. He distracts others, and instructional minutes are lost due to constant redirecting of behavior. The intervention that I chose was token plus reward. So we used a token board similar to the one on the right-hand side of the screen. And whenever Kamal would follow a direction that I gave him, I would place a token on his board and tell him, good job following directions. My plan for choosing to phrase everything under the heading following directions comes from the fact that he had so many behaviors that we wanted to work on, and I figured that if I could teach him to follow directions given by myself, then I could teach him to pretty much do anything that I would like him to do if he was going to follow directions. This included, in some cases, I had to teach him some replacement behaviors, and the most important thing for this intervention was consistency. This is a brief overview of some of his hitting and spitting, kicking, and scratching behaviors prior to the intervention. This would be our baseline data. As you can see, he engaged in most, if not all, of these behaviors almost every single day, as many as 3 times per day. This is our results once we implemented the intervention. Now, as you can see, kicking, spitting, and hitting are kind of jumping all over the board, while scratching remains consistent. Scratching was one of the behaviors that took the longest to break this student of, and it was one that he engaged in particularly on the playground, which was a challenge in itself to keep him under control at this time. Now, as you'll notice, towards the beginning of the intervention, he started off on that Monday pretty high in all of his behaviors. And then you'll notice that you start to see somewhat of a decline, but then it shoots right back up. And you notice on the first Friday, all of his behaviors appear to be at their max. This is typical when you're working on dealing with behaviors. A lot of the time you will see a marked increase before you see any type of decrease. Now, after that, you'll notice we see a little bit of a decrease. Then there's another spike on that following Thursday before you see them actually start to begin on a downward trend on that Friday of the second week. Now, as we have continued implementing this intervention over the past several weeks, I'm happy to report that today we had 0 incidences of spitting, 0 incidences of hitting, 0 incidences of kicking, 0 incidences of scratching. He attended speech without an incident. He also attended his mental health counseling without an incident. In addition to that, he was able to earn his reward 3 different times. My conclusions: this was a very effective intervention. It definitely needs to be done consistently. It needs to be continuously implemented until the student no longer requires or reacts to this intervention, at which time we will need to reassess the situation and see what is appropriate. Some general comments that I have is, as I noted before, there was definitely an increase prior to the decrease. Many of the behaviors that were being witnessed previously are currently on extinction, which is where we would like them to be. However, new behaviors have arisen. This student has chosen a new escape behavior, which is when he does not want to participate in an activity in class, he purposefully wets his pants. And so his aide has to take him to the restroom, and he escapes that activity. Other factors that added to both the new behaviors as well as the success of this intervention. Approximately the same time that we implemented this intervention, this student qualified to receive a one-on-one aid. I also noticed that when his mother was released from prison or jail, his level of excitement seemed to decrease, and he just seemed overall happier and less prone to these physical outbursts.